Welcome to Season 2 of Red Sox Digest, the only show where pain, sarcasm, and false hope collide nightly, like a Masataka Yoshida ground out to second. We break down every loss, every meltdown, and the occasional win, with sarcasm, facts, and no front office spin. Subscribe today at RedSoxDigest.com, or keep wondering how a wildcard team spent an entire offseason avoiding power hitters. And now, here's the crew at Red Sox Digest.
Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to another edition of Red Sox Digest. I am your host tonight, Jim Delfino. Sorry to take you away from the stellar home run derby. I'm the only man who watched the Red Sox sweep the Mets and immediately began calculating how Craig Breslow could somehow turn this into 3 utility infielders and a pitcher recovering from Tommy John surgery. Joining me tonight is Nick Face, the only man who could turn a 9-game winning streak into a 47-minute argument about why the 7th inning was still unacceptable. Nick doesn't enjoy winning, he investigates it. The Red Sox could be winning the World Series, and Nick would be online 5 minutes later arguing with a guy named Sogard is King 420 about defensive positioning in Game 2. Joining me tonight is Thayer Doyle, educator, family man, proud Irishman, and the only person capable of discussing a Red Sox sweep like he's grading a 7th inning or 7th grade group project. Excellent effort, boys. Strong work. However, Francisco Lindor's 9th inning error will not be accepted as your own original work. Although, to be fair, everybody knew the Mets were going to collapse. It's the Mets. Collapse isn't something that happens to them. It's their organizational mission statement. Finally joining us today is John Martinello, our analytics guru. And because I forgot to write what was coming next, I don't have anything left for that. So let's get into it. Your Boston Red Sox are now 46-48, and now, God help us, 10 games behind the first-place Tampa Bay Rays. But forget the division for a moment. The Sox are only half a game out of the final American League wildcard spot, and they've won 9 straight, 14 of their last 16, and just completed a perfect 9-0 road trip. 9 games, 9 wins. The team left Boston looking like it should be sold for parts and returned home looking like the 1927 Yankees, except likable, showered, and without 17 guys named Dutch. Sunday's finale was the most Mets loss imaginable. Boston trailed 2-0 entering the 9th inning and had produced approximately as much offense as a folding chair. Mets rookie Zach Thornton went 7 shutout innings. Francisco Lindor drove in the first run, hit a solo homer in the second, and appeared ready to carry New York into the break. Then, Lindor committed a 9th inning error because, of course, he did. It was the first domino. Ceddanne Rafaela reached second, Andrew Monasterio drew a bases-loaded walk, and good old friend Jarren Duran tied the game with a single. The Mets bullpen responded like someone had released a live raccoon inside a cockpit. Then in the 10th, Anthony Seigler hit a go-ahead sacrifice fly, and Garrett Whitlock closed it out for a 3-2 win. Boston had been 0-43 when trailing after 8 innings. Then they encountered the New York Mets. And suddenly, anything is possible. More on this road trip. The Red Sox swept the Angels, the White Sox, and of course the Mets. 3 cities, 9 victories, and apparently not one functioning charter airplane. The trip had delays, pitching injuries, lineup changes, and enough logistical chaos to make Southwest Airlines say, guys, get organized. But they won every game. So I ask you, the fan, comment tonight in the comment section. Is this finally a legitimate contender? Or are we about to spend 4 days convincing ourselves that beating the White Sox and Mets counts as defeating the 98 Yankees? Number 2, Boston is officially in the wild card race. 2 weeks ago, fans were preparing trade proposals involving anyone over 30 and several office chairs. Now, Boston is half a game out. Craig Breslow has gone from which veterans can I sell to do I actually have to buy somebody? You can almost hear the panic inside Fenway. Wait, we're competing? Nobody budgeted for this. Does this streak force Breslow to add legitimate help? Or will he tell us that Roman Anthony eventually is returning, representing a major deadline acquisition, through an innovative process of healing. What's more, the Red Sox are also 3.5 games behind Cleveland for the second wild card, which would make them the number 5 seed in the American League playoffs. That team plays the first wild card team, while the final wild card team has to face a division winner. So moving up could give Boston a much easier first-round matchup. They still wouldn't host a series, but the path to October could be less brutal. The Red Sox finally catch fire, and one of their best starters injures a body part that makes everyone uncomfortable during the injury report. Ranger Suarez has a strained groin. Okay, thank you. No replay necessary. Peyton Tolley and Brian Bayo combined to keep Sunday's game alive, but Boston still needs rotation help. Question: should Breslow target a starter at the deadline, or should we expect another mysterious left-hander with a 5.82 ERA, excellent extension numbers, and a LinkedIn recommendation? Finally, Danny Colomb is reportedly being designated for assignment. Colomb's wife is expecting triplets, which means being designated for assignment may actually be the second most stressful development of his week. 3 babies at once, that man doesn't need a bullpen role. He needs a bullpen of relatives. The boss... Thank you. Be here all night. The baseball decision clears a roster spot, but Boston's bullpen depth remains a question. So fans, does Breslow need another high-leverage reliever, or will he simply clone Garrett Whitlock and hope Major League Baseball doesn't inspect the birth certificates? So here we are. The Red Sox are still 2 games under 500. They are still 10 games out of first place. The rotation is injured. The roster remains flawed. And the front office still treats spending money like it's being asked to donate a kidney. But 9 straight wins are 9 straight wins. This team could have folded at 32-46. Instead, it punched its way back into the postseason race, embarrassed the Mets in their own stadium, and forced all of us to experience the most dangerous emotion in all of New England sports. That word is hope. That's it. I'm done. Time for the word of the day.
And now it's time for Nick Face's Word of the Day!
One more time.
What are we in Tampa?
Did you hear that noise? All aboard. Buying. I am stunned to even have to say that, but I want to dial it back to when Thayer and I did a show. We were wrapping up that national series when they were at Fenway Park. Red Sox took that first game, and then they lost the next 2. And then we did our show that Thursday night before they went on the West Coast, and we were talking about the Angels. And then what did we play the White Sox and then the Mets. And then I made a statement about, because you've been better at home and because your opponents are not that great that you're going to be facing, I put out a number of 9 out of 12. Can you take 9 out of 12 to get you back into somewhat of a contending team? They ended up doing 10 out of 12. To my amazement. I'm still flabbergasted how we're 46-48 right now, a half game out of a wild card spot, with the roster that we have, with the people that have been injured and the guys that have been coming through, stepping in to basically fill holes of a Garrett Crochet or a Roman Anthony or Marcelo Meyer. We're not talking enough, guys, about just how good our pitching is right now. We're not talking about it enough. Even with Crochet being down, you've had continued contributions from Peyton Tolley. You've had continued contributions from Jake Bennett. Sonny Gray, who should be an all-star, could be in contention for a Cy Young if this continues. The list goes on. They're just finding ways to pitch themselves to stay in these games. Now, can they get better as the second half goes on? That's where we're still undecided on, at least on my end, because the Red Sox did this about a year ago. They won 10 straight. All-Star break came. It was at the worst time for them because they were hot as a pistol. And then they faced the Cubs out of the break. And I think they only took one game in that series. But that end of July phase for them was not that great. It was kind of 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out the door with even Alex Bregman going out and really not seeing much of him. It wasn't great baseball. The Red Sox now have a mission here on coming out of the gate playing better baseball. They're going to obviously get Wilson Contreras back after that first game on that Friday, which I think will help the lineup. But there needs to be some sort of a understanding from ownership and management that if the rest of the league is going to be this bad, some of these teams, and you have an opportunity to do something in the playoffs, they need to invest in improving the roster. I just don't know if they're going to do it, and if I have the trust in Craig Breslow to lead this. That's where my struggle is right now with figuring out what direction the Red Sox head as the trade deadline hits, because they'll have a very small window of time, and that time starts on Friday when we face, it'll be the Rays, the Orioles, the Blue Jays, and they're all 10 games at home. We have not played well at home. To me, that's going to define what happens at the break and what happens the rest of this season. I don't really have much faith right now because we haven't seen it in the Red Sox coming out of the break and doing well. I don't. They play better on the road. We all know that. They have not been able to figure out how to win at home. And maybe I'm speaking for everybody, but I'm going to at least speak for myself here and say the roster assembled, at least with the offense that you have, is not built to play at Fenway Park. It's not. Now, could you say some players are? Sure. I think Wilson Contreras is a guy that has the swing for Fenway. But for the rest of the roster right now, they have failed to play and to produce at Fenway. How are they going to fix that? Well, that's where I think they have to identify what targets they're going to make when the deadline hits. Do I have any particular names on my list? Not at the current moment, because I don't know what teams yet are going to be sellers. I don't know what teams are going to be able to give the Red Sox anything, because you have a lot of teams right now that are trying to figure out where they're going to head. You don't know. Do I want any players on the New York Mets? I don't think so. Do I want Francisco Lindor as my shortstop? I mean, look what he did to lose his team the game. Could that improve what you have in a roster? Yes, I will say that, because what you got right now is Chang and a combination of whatever Worcester has. Can it at least give you some sort of star power? Yeah, you don't have any of that. But I wonder what it's going to take for the Mets to part with anybody on that team. I do know that Lindor and Juan Soto pretty much despise each other. So I think the Mets are going to break that up. It's just a matter of what domino is going to fall on that end. The other thing I want to mention too is I think the Red Sox, one of the reasons that we started to see things go their way is chemistry. I think the chemistry for this team is at its all-time high right now, at least for this season, with installing players that are trying to prove a point or trying to prove that they belong on this roster. Anthony Seigler has been a revelation for this team. The hustle, the effort, the dirt dog mentality. I don't know about you guys, but I feel it's infectious. And I think the rest of the players have bought in. Is he a great player? No, I'm not going to put the word great into that. But has he been a steady replacement for a Marcelo Meyer and your Connor Falefas and Trevor Stories? Yes. And he's been able to fit the mold perfectly. I completely am cool with that. And then the other one I want to mention is Chang. I feel like every time he comes up in a big spot, he gets the job done. Kudos to him. Tip your cap. Who had that on your bingo card with another injury happening for the Sox, installing Chang as your shortstop, and he's figuring out ways to get it done. And the other one I want to mention too, which is coming back, and I feel like he's been a spark plug for this roster, has been Roman Gonzalez. We laughed about it. We said, this is a joke. How can we even think that Roman Gonzalez is going to be a savior? I think Romy has helped this team in so many different ways with lengthening out the roster. He could play first or second, being versatile on that front. And then against left-handed pitching, he just continues to be very steady with the bat. I think timing is still a little bit off with him because he didn't have a spring training for the most part. So I'm optimistic on where we're heading on the Romy front as well too. But for the most part here, I'm kind of still in a state of shock that they were able to do this 9 wins in a row and take care of business all on the road. It's pretty stunning from where we were. I'll even say 2 weeks ago, even a week ago, to be at a point where we're at, where we're buying and we're, I guess, semi-believing. That's kind of crazy to say that too. But here we are, folks. All-Star break is here. And we're talking about a summer where we may have a team that's worth investing in. Oh, God. I can't believe I just said that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot to unpack there. We'll talk about it a little bit later on the show with some of the moves and things, because I got a couple takes that I want to present to you guys as well. So we'll see how that goes later on. But Nick Face is brought to you by Keyboard Fire Insurance, the only coverage plan designed for Red Sox fans who type faster than they think and treat every bad take on X like a declaration of war. It covers smoke damage, shattered space bars, accidental caps lock, and emergency replacement keyboards after Aaron Boone says something smug. Keyboard Fire Insurance, protecting your hardware when the comment section becomes a 5-alarm disaster. And now it's time for the Martinello Minute and John's happy new hat.
And now the part they don't want said out loud. No spreadsheets or corporate spin, just the truth, raw and impatient. This is the Martinello Minute.
You didn't think I saw that, did you?
First thing I wanted to say, Jim, thanks for noticing, and shout out to the Portland Sea Dogs for putting this up on the shop. One of the coolest hats I think I've ever owned. Very, very cool for them to get in on the 4th of July stuff. But Nick talked about it. 2 weeks ago, this team had I think it was like an 8% chance of making the playoffs, and then you go on this ridiculous 14-2 stretch going into the All-Star break. You win 9 games on the road in a row for the first time, I think it was since 1977. Just a ridiculous run. And if you go back the last couple of years, those last 20 games before the All-Star break is always when these Red Sox teams hit their strides on the season. But you look at the other half of that, the next 10 games coming out of the break, they've struggled a little bit. So I'm not concerned right now, but it's something to, look at and kind of, I don't want to say be prepared for, but be prepared for, these first 10 games out of the break, because they're going to make or break the season. I believe that it's, I think 16 games you have coming out of the break, or I think less than that, maybe like 13 games out of the break you have before that trade deadline. So you're in a good spot right now, but you still got a lot of work to do to make the ownership and make the front office, go into this buy mode. And I still don't think it's going to be a buy mode. I think it's going to be a little bit of a buy and sell. And in years past, I believe that it's been a big mistake doing that buy and sell dynamic, especially under Chaim Bloom, who was just never able to make up his mind on a lot of things. But I think this year is kind of it's the right idea. I think that you have a couple guys and your Schwarber, or my bad, I got the home run derby on. I'm watching Schwarber hit right now. But you have Chapman, Whitlock, Sonny Gray, all guys that are going to have a big market, and you could include Wilson Contreras, even Tyron Guerrero in that. Maybe even Duran if the right team is looking for that type of player right now. But there's you have 13 games or so before the trade deadline, and you're going to have to show up. But listen, the the American League is god awful. Most years, a team's record definitely matters. Obviously matters, but this is not the year in the American League to worry about what your record is. They're a half game out of the wild card. They have a ton of momentum riding right now. Did they suck for the first 3 months of the season? Absolutely. And if you don't think that they did and you think it was bad luck, they were 14 games under 500. It's completely fine to say for the past 3 months that this team has blown. But are they playing great ball over the past 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks heading into the All-Star break? Absolutely. So, no one except for some people on Twitter who criticize you for saying that they suck again when they were 15 games below 500 thought this team could ever claw their way back. And you were not wrong to say that you didn't think that this team could claw their way back. But they did it, and they did it before the All-Star break. 162 games is a really long season. Bad things are going to happen. You're going to go through those bad stretches. The Red Sox went through 3 months of a bad stretch, but in a 162 game season, you have enough opportunity. You have enough games to make up for it. All it took was a 16 game stretch to get these guys right back into the playoff conversation. So, going forward out of the All-Star break, they have 10 games at home, again, all against AL East opponents. Your objective is to get back to 500. And then how good can you be in these final 68 games? For the better, to add at the trade deadline, whether it's, and whether that's for better or worse. If you add at the trade deadline and then you have a Roman Anthony and a Garrett Crochet potentially coming back, that's a team that, I don't think that there's many other teams in the AL that can compete with these guys if they're rolling. But again, there's a lot of ifs that I just mentioned. But, again, just tell me one team in the American League that you're scared of right now. And if that takes you more than a second to answer, you have your answer for it. You have the answer right in front of you. There's not many teams that I think that if this Red Sox team is playing good baseball, that are going to beat them in a 7-game series. You have the quality pitching. You have the bullpen. Greg Weissert is one that for the past 3-4 weeks has been nails. But you have all the qualities that you look for in a team that can compete in October. You're missing, that extra bat, and then you need a couple guys to get healthy. But if there's a year for a Red Sox team to compete into October when they don't have the greatest team in the world, it's this year. And I think these guys have the at least what I've seen over the past 2 weeks, they have the tenacity and they have the ability to do that. So I'm really excited to see where this team goes those first 10 games at Fenway Park where they've struggled out of the break.
Yeah, some good points. A couple things that you mentioned that I want to just kind of comment on. We all know that there's a major concern about how the pitching is going to hold up, especially with the young guys and their pitching limits and so forth. And I hate to use the old cliche, this guy's coming back. It's like a deadline acquisition. I mean, Chris Sale was supposed to come back 13 years in a row. And, that was always came with its own set of butterflies, including butterflies, I think, that actually bit him too. But that's a story for another day, my dry humor. But the reality is, if Crochet comes back, if Crochet comes back, that really could be a guy that they're going to have to lean on because you are going to have some limits, innings limits. I kind of want to just kind of let everybody know about this. You mentioned about July. I just did a quick research on how the Red Sox fare in the month of July. So over the last 20 seasons, so from 2006 to 2025, the Red Sox have a combined winning percentage of .541 in July, 264, 224. It's a 40-game swing. They have winning records in 12 of those 20 seasons. Their best was 2011. They were 20-6 in July, and we know how that season ended. Their second best was 2018, 19-6. Their worst was 22, was 8-19. But the bottom line is they do pretty good in July, even with that terrible, wretched 22 season. So it's a good month for them. And considering July typically has the least amount of victories and games played because of the All-Star break, and All-Star breaks were longer in the past. So, it'll be interesting to see how that fares out, because ideally the season's decision in terms of buying or selling is going to come down to this homestand. I think you've got to be over 500, then maybe they buy. But if they get destroyed, even if they're, 3-7, I think that's a recipe for shoving it right down the drain. So that said, the Martinello Minute is brought to you by Rumor Laundry and Dry Cleaning, the premier full-service cleaner for filthy trade rumors, stained insider reports, and hot takes covered in mystery sauce from the majority of Red Sox Twitter. Just drop off your rumor in the morning, and by game time, it comes back pressed, folded, fact-checked, and completely free of anonymous shit. Rumor Laundry and Dry Cleaning. We remove the spin, steam out the nonsense, and never lose your receipts. And now it's going to be time for the third strike.
And now it's time for the third strike with Thayer.
So I'm torn a little bit. I'm pleased that the Red Sox have given us a little something. I'm glad they're not the most despicable team that I've ever had to watch. This last winning streak was, kind of fun to see. I don't know if I think they're going to continue it. I'm not an analytical person, but I do know that for 3 months they were god awful, and now for 3 weeks they're playing pretty good baseball. And has it all been them playing wonderful baseball? No, it has not. It has not. We've been playing bad teams, and we've been playing teams that are not playing well. We have been facing pitching that hasn't been great. That Mets, they gave us one of those games. We've been, Contreras has been on fire for most of this stretch. Contreras has been good all season long, but he has not been the player we saw the last 3 weeks. Really since the tragedy in Venezuela, that sparked a different person. And will he be able to keep that fire and that drive and that emotion going through the rest of the year? I don't know. I'd like to think maybe, but he's still a human being, and there are going to be slumps where he's not going to be able to carry the team like he was. Do I think there's anyone else on this team capable of doing that? No, I do not. I don't think Abreu is going to be as sort of power droughting as he has been, but I don't know if he's capable of being that power threat. I'm pleased with the way Durbin is playing. Do I think he's going to continue to hit 9 home runs a month? No, I don't. I also think that our pitching has been outstanding, and I have to give it all the credit in the world. And I'd love to see Crochet back. But as I've mentioned before, and I know, Jim, you talked about it, Bennett and Tolley are going to hit an innings limit. They're just going to, and they're not going to be able to pitch. And even if they push through that, they're not going to be as consistent and productive as they have been. So that's going to be an issue. I don't know where to go from here. I'd love to say yes, make moves and trade for to get in there, but do I see them winning the whole thing? No, I don't think they're good enough to get there. The starting pitching, if it were right now, probably, but come September and October, we're not going to have the same pitchers we did. Now, yes, you could have if Crochet comes back and you don't trade away Gray, and Suarez comes back. Suarez is a big game pitcher. You might have that opportunity. You might be okay. But do I trust Chapman to maintain? No, I don't. We've sort of already seen him starting to diminish a little bit. Will Whitlock continue to be all right? I think so. But I do know that the last time we saw him in the playoffs, he did not do what he needed to do and cost us a win. So I don't necessarily know just how thoroughly dominant that bullpen is going to be. And the other aspect of this whole thing is during this time, they have been playing excellent small ball and excellent teamwork. The guys that they have brought in, have really been doing a nice job. Are they going to continue to do that? We're not talking about guys that have a track record of being exceptional in the minor leagues. Heck, we're talking about guys that weren't even on the depth chart. They're only brought up here because Story got hurt and Mayer got hurt, and Sogard got hurt, and Romy has been hurt. Now he's back. So we're talking about guys that are 4th, 5th, 6th on the depth chart. I don't think that those are guys that are going to be capable of maintaining the way they're doing things throughout the year. So do I want them to buy to try to make the playoffs, to perhaps do something? And John, to your point, yes, the American League stinks. And I'm going to answer your question as honestly as I possibly can. Who's the team that I fear the most? The Red Sox. The Red Sox are the team that I fear the most because I think they are more like the 3-month team I saw than the 3-week team. And I think that's the team that's going to continue to bite themselves in the butt. That, yes, they could go out and get fantastic pitching, but somewhere along the lines, they're not going to be able to score the runs. And ultimately, what's really, and I hate to say this because the last year I was all about play for this year, play for this season, the team that's on the field. Unfortunately, what we have right now, and this is a crazy conundrum, we have the most tradable talent we have ever had come deadline time. We have the most tradable talent in all of Major League Baseball. So what we can get for Gray, what we can get for Chapman is just astronomical. The thought of what we can get to improve this team. But to get to your point, Nick, would I like Lindor? Absolutely. And I know the Mets are going to be selling. If we're going, and that's that's how I'm going to couch this. If Breslow thinks we're good enough and we go, we better not go half-ass. I want someone like Lindor. I want a monster. Like, bring Tatis in here. I know he's struggling, but bring him in here. Do something like that. Make this team a threat. And Lindor, I know what we saw out of him in that playoff run and what we've seen before from him in the play, that man understands what winning is all about. And right now the Mets aren't about winning. So I don't care what's going on this year. But when the chips are down, that's the guy I want up in a big spot.
Yeah, great points. And the other thing is, too, with the Mets, there's a lot of tension between Soto and him. So, for at least for what I'm reading, if it's accurate, he may welcome a trade out of that market. So we'll be interested to see on that. So let me just go over here. The third strike tonight has been brought to you by Red Sox Fan Exit Limo Services, luxury transportation for fans who know exactly when a promising evening is about to turn into a bullpen-sponsored disaster. Our drivers monitor the game. They pull up the moment the lead disappears and whisk you away before the post-game excuses will begin. Red Sox Exit Limo Service. When you've seen enough, we're already got the engine running. I want to go into a major talking point of mine, and it actually happens to be my piece of take for tonight. And that is going to be this part here, if I can find it. No, let me just try to get everybody off to the side. So Just Baseball put this out on the 12th. The Nationals let everyone know last year that James Wood and C.J. Abrams were available by trade. So my question, and this kind of falls back on what Nick was saying earlier, that, is there anybody right now that's available that I would want? And my response is, you can trade with a team that necessarily isn't in sell mode, but could be just interested in trading pieces they have extra of, and you could trade pieces that you have extra of, but look for what you need. Now, this may be pie in the sky. I don't know. But I threw this out here, and it's probably not a complete list. And I'm sure people on Twitter looked at it and said, he wouldn't even be able to get his left nut for that. Look, I open the conversation. Obviously, Breslow has a working relationship with the Nationals. You can argue that he fleeced, and probably the only time Bloom or Breslow have fleeced anybody with Jake Bennett, at least to this point. None of the other trades really have been fleeces, in my opinion. But look, why not an opportunity where you can get two major impact bats that you desperately need, and you might want to put in Arias, Mayer, Bennett. Maybe it's Tolley. Maybe it's Early. Maybe it's Abreu. Your thoughts, Nick? I'll start with you.
I was just looking at the stats a little bit for both these guys. I'm going to say no. I'd want to pass on this with the Nationals. I don't think that either of these players, over the long haul, I'm saying not immediate, but over the long haul, will move the needle enough for me to want to package an Arias, a Mayer, and Bennett and break that up right there. I feel like if I'm going to part with our number one prospect that we have, a big question mark of what Marcelo Mayer is going to be, and then throw that on top of what Jake Bennett has done for you so far. I don't feel intrigued enough to move the needle on a move of a C.J. Abrams or a James Wood.
Nick, let me interrupt you for half a second. Would you trade Hanley? Would you trade Hanley Ramirez for Josh Beckett and Mike Lowell?
At the time, I wouldn't have. No, truly, I wouldn't have, and it ended up working out well. I wouldn't have.
Would you say it worked out for both sides, though?
Yes, it did work out for both sides. Yes.
So I think that's the point I'm trying to get at. Trades are, you can't, Red Sox Twitter and some fans, they think you got to win every trade. Why can't you look at the perspective of the other team and say, hey, listen, we need help. You got stuff we want. We got stuff you want, and just have an old-fashioned baseball trade.
Well, the other thing that I looked at here with the James Wood scenario here is then what is Wilson Contreras or James Wood move to DH? Is that what you would do on that front? That was the other thing where I'm saying,
I think if you have a James Wood, you find a spot. If you have James Wood, you find a spot.
You would find it. I'd probably install him as my DH. I like Contreras at first base, for me personally. I just feel like if I'm going to upgrade something, I'm looking more at a second base and shortstop. I know C.J. Abrams would be perfectly fine to put as your shortstop there, but then you got another mess on your hands when Trevor Story comes back, which I don't want. I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you and blunt. I don't want Trevor Story to come back because I think that it's gonna put the team in turmoil mode. Me personally, my take is that if Trevor Story, if Marcelo Mayer, and if Roman Anthony return back to this team, it's gonna hurt initially because I think the chemistry is going to go down.
Thayer, your thoughts on this potential trade, or just getting it? It doesn't even have to be the Nationals. But what about getting an old-fashioned baseball trade where you don't have to find a team that is out of it and selling off parts, but you find a baseball trade that works for both parties?
I would do this. I don't know if I would include Arias. I'd absolutely trade Mayer. He's gone. Goodbye. See you later. I would trade Bennett. I might even trade Tolley. I think to get a player of Wood's caliber, you're going to have to include two pitchers at least, probably a third minor leaguer, because that's what people are going to want from you. Right now, the only assets we have are our pitchers. But to be perfectly honest, I would do that. I would do that, again, with this caveat. What Red Sox ownership and what Red Sox front office am I going to be getting? Am I going to get the ones that make the trade and then just sit on it? Or am I going to be the ones that say, make the trade, and then I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy, since I've gotten a player who's controlled for a long time, I'm going to spend my money and bring in a dominant free agent pitcher. Because honestly, I think you can replace the pitching much easier on the free agent market than you can the bat. Because teams are not willing to trade their bats. The fact that the Nationals are willing to trade these bats is something quite unusual. And I think we've sort of seen there's a history of trading offensive players and the impacts they have, especially from the Nationals. Harper has gone to Philadelphia and has changed the culture in that town.
Well, I think there's something to be said, too, when you can acquire a player that plays every day versus a starter that plays once or, 1.2 times a week. Or you know what I'm saying, the starting rotation. The five,
and I honestly would do that because totally they've been wonderful this year, but I do not ultimately trust them. I feel that there's a much better chance of these guys breaking down and sort of being one-hit wonders than there are of Woods kind of not being that. So I would do a Tolley. I would do Bennett. I would trade Mayer. I would do that and probably a third minor leaguer. I know he's hurt, but truly the only guy I trust is Early. I think Early has the makeup beyond those other two that will be somebody who can really become a major league player.
The other thing, sorry to interrupt you one more time, but the other thing to consider too is that your young guys outside of Brian Bayo, Ceddanne Rafaela, Roman Anthony et al., these guys are pre-arbitration. They are at their highest peak right now for trade value than they probably ever will be, just because of the longevity of their control. So does Tolley turn into Brian Bayo in 3 years? Let's not worry about that right now. Does Early do it? Does Bennett do it? Who cares? Right now is right now. And I want the Red Sox to go after a bona fide stud hitter that's his best days are in front of him. And I know you brought up, a few different guys. I mean, Mike Trout has been talked about. It's all nonsense. I don't want anybody. I don't want Manny Machado. I don't want anybody on the wrong side of their contract. I don't care if the guy's got the contract in front of him. Give me Bobby Witt. There's not one guy on this roster, Franklin Arias included, right? There's not one Red Sox that I could tell you is hands off for Bobby Witt. I would include, and I've said this before. I said this back when we got Chris Sale, and even when we got, other players in the past. When you have the opportunity to get a major impact stud pitcher or hitter, you have to make it work. You can't stand pat and say you couldn't come to terms, because they don't come around every couple months. They don't come around every year. Teams want to keep their guys. So if there is smoke, you got to look for the fire. John, your thoughts?
Yeah, so James Wood, I think that that's a bat that perfectly would just mesh with Fenway Park. You go look at his spray charts. He hits the ball everywhere. Some of the furthest balls that he hits, they go to left field. So I take for how good of a batter and a player he is right now, and you throw him 81 games a year into Fenway Park, I mean, you're probably talking add 8 to 10 more doubles, throw in a couple more home runs in there. I mean, that's a guy that you could legitimately say will have a 40 home runs and double season for you year in and year out. Now his strikeout numbers are a little bit of a concern, but if you're getting 80 extra base hits out of him, and maybe that's a stretch a little bit. Maybe he does that once or twice, but if you're getting a guy that has the ability to give you that type of slugging, you don't really care what his strikeout numbers are. C.J. Abrams, on the other hand, I think that he's a very crafty hitter. He's 25 years old. He's an interesting player. but that guys, he cannot play defense. He is in the first percentile of outs above average.
Put him at second.
He's even. So I mean, just from how much fun it has been this year to watch the Red Sox play defense and see what a good defensive group can do for you. He's just a guy that I'm honestly just not interested in whatsoever. So I would 100% trade for James Wood. I'd give up, I would give up Arias, Meyer. I don't think that Taboni would suck up in year one, taking Jake Bennett back, but I'd give up I don't totally just because he's been on the field more. I'm obsessed with him, but you throw in an Anthony Eason, or you throw in a Tyson Witherspoon, or you throw in one of these guys that you just drafted.
What about early? Would you let him go?
That one would be a tough pill to swallow, but again, as you said, Jim, if you're getting one of these generational players, you have to bite the bullet on it. And you listen, both it's not, and Jim, you said it. It's not about winning the trade, but it's about making your team better. Arias, Meyer, early, throw in another prospect if you want. Your team gets better tomorrow if you were to have James Wood on it. So that's kind of my 2 cents.
I love you, John, but a generational talent, James Wood.
Yeah.
I
you throw that guy into Fenway Park? Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely. His batted ball profile at Fenway Park, oh my God.
The guy's batting .280 with 28 home runs. I mean,
I know he is, but he's still young. That's what I don't.
So is Roman Anthony. He's on the shelf.
Well, do you want the 23-year-old, or do you want the 30-year-old that's proven it?
I'm just more the Conley early front.
But you have so many good pitchers already.
Yeah.
And they're young.
You are in a position.
When you have a surplus, you can't keep all.
You are in a position of strength when you've got the pitching, like Thayer said earlier. That's the bottom line.
You do. You do. I like what Thayer said on Conley early, though. I think the makeup reminds me so much of John Lester, and I don't want to make that mistake again. That's where I'm very hesitant on, at least on that.
I mean, look. If you could make this move and save early Tolley and Bennett.
Oh yeah,
I'm not complaining.
I'm not complaining. Then I'd be okay with that.
But the question would be: is Breslow and company crafty enough to do that? Maybe Witherspoon's in there. I don't care about Witherspoon. I mean, he may be the next, Randy Johnson.
I didn't care about Reese either.
It doesn't matter. But the reason why I bring this up more so than anything is because a lot of Red Sox Twitter, all they care about is winning the trade and fleecing other teams. And I've said this before, there's not one fleecing that they've done outside. Maybe I'll give you Jake Bennett as of right now. But there's an old marketer named Zig Ziglar. And I don't know if any of you have ever heard of this guy. He used to do a lot of stand-up and discussion. He's a very, very talented man. But one thing he always said was, you get more of what you want if you give more of what someone else wants. Let me repeat that. You get more of what you want if you give others what they want. And so if you have to give up if you have a want on a team, a couple players, a player, you're going to have to make it hurt. You're not going to be able to give up jack crap and get a superstar. You got to get into the mind of the other team and say, what do I have that they want so I get what I want? And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so. Moving right along, let's get this off the screen. Let's see. And I want to go. We haven't done this in quite some time, so I think it's time for a little change.
And now it's time for everyone's favorite segment, the Dugout Dipshits.
So it's very rare that we have someone who has been a dugout dipshit more than once. But I'd like to give some chatter to our good friend Jobu Serrano. Congratulations, first of all, for being a two-time dugout dipshit award winner. He said the Red Sox are still under 500 and have an enormous amount of work left to do to make the playoffs. But the worst Red Sox team ever crowd has embarrassed themselves beyond repair. They simply wouldn't listen to those who tried to explain baseball to them. So I came back and I said, this is a terrible take. If injuries didn't happen and those players remained, do we assume this stretch would have happened? And you can find the tweet. He went on to say that it was the dumbest thing he's ever heard, but obviously his ears don't work because you read these tweets, you don't hear them. But in any event, am I wrong or right? I mean, do you guys, John, I'll start with you. If the Red Sox never had a Trevor Story injury, never had a Romy Gonzalez injury, never had a Marcelo Mayer injury. Let's say Story was still in your lineup. Mayer was still at second. Do you honestly think that they would have won 9 in a row at this point? Or was the changing of the guard and the different players that are on the roster now made a difference?
So it's a whole big game of what ifs, but a video was posted today with Wilson Contreras asking him, about what the differences, what led to this run that this team went on. And he said flat out, these new guys in the clubhouse, they want to play baseball. They're, I don't think he name dropped Anthony Seigler, but the guy looked like he broke his neck or dislocated his shoulder. And he told Chad Tracy, I want to be, don't take me out of the game. I could do it. If I have to throw underhand, I'll throw underhand. He came out, he went out of that game, but then he was back in the lineup the next day. Caleb Durbin dislocated his finger in Colorado, comes back the next day and hits a 2-run home run off the front runner for the American League Cy Young. The guys in the clubhouse right now want to play baseball. They're excited to play baseball every single day. And they just bring a type of energy to the game that this team's been looking for all year. Now, granted, would this team, be in a similar situation as they are right now if Trevor Story, Roman Anthony, Garrett Crochet, Marcelo Mayer, throw in IKF if you want to, we're all still here? Who knows? I don't know. Maybe they figured it out and they got going. But the reality is, if gun to my head, no, I don't think that they go on a 9-game winning streak. Now, maybe the record's a little bit similar, but these guys won 14 out of their last 16 games because of what faces and what players are inside of the clubhouse right now.
Thayer, you're up. What do you think? Am I off base, or do you think that the reality is that the changing of the guard, the players that are here now, are more responsible for at least, this 9-game winning streak? And the point I'm getting at is if Trevor Story was still here, IKF, Marcelo Mayer, would we be still in last place and 12 games under 500, so to speak?
Yeah, it's really hard to determine whether they would have had that 9-game winning streak. I think it's possible that the guys that are not here have more talent than the guys that are here. And that's just a fact. Those are professional baseball players. The guys that are here, to what John was saying, are guys who are getting a chance that they may never have gotten before, and they are putting forth every and all efforts and energy to do that. Do that. Yep. So, but this is a very long, drawn-out season, both emotionally and physically. And it takes a tremendous toll to play at that level all the time. And they're ultimately going to start to decline. We're going to see that.
Mickey Gasper.
Yeah. And we've seen it in the past with guys that have come up and had, Toro comes up and has an incredible time. But, it happens. People earn their money and play for a long time because they've shown consistency. Do I think the team that was here before would have gone on? No, I don't think so. I don't think that they would have expended that amount of energy to go through all those things. Would there have been a different outcome where maybe their at normal baseball abilities have won more games? It's possible. Maybe you're not looking at, losing 2 out of every 3 series for the first 3 months. or going for it. But at the same time, what we've been hearing a lot about Mayer is he's just not sort of into baseball. Like, he's good at it, but he doesn't love it. Story, I don't think that's the case. I think Story loves it. He just is, broken down and never was necessarily as good as his Colorado numbers. Crochet absolutely would have made a difference. Anthony absolutely would have made a difference. But, at the same time, IKF, I don't know. It's difficult. I would say no, I don't think that the players that were here would have gone on the 9-game run.
Nick, am I off base or am I right?
You're always right, Jim. You're
Thank
always
you.
right. I mean, everything you do, you're the perfect person. There's everything you state is 100% the truth and always the truth, or nothing but the truth.
And you say everything right too.
I try my best. I'm a yes man.
You just did it right now. So with that being said,
your thing was perfect, and that guy needs to be blasted off to another planet because he doesn't know what baseball is.
yeah. And with that being said, all right. So some housekeeping. We're going to do comments, and then actually we'll do housekeeping after that. So let's see what the roll looks like. Jules tonight. Don't drink the jungle juice, the Kool-Aid, man. I don't know. I'm not there yet, to be honest with you. So I don't know about you guys. You still drinking the Kool-Aid, or you're still kind of like pumping the brakes?
I'm drinking my Empower teas. Thanks.
2 locations.
I actually had a matcha today. I did for my first time that we now have, and it was actually pretty good because I made it.
A mani matcha? Any machado? Okay.
A mini matcha.
Yeah. John made the batch of toxic brew. See, John? Telling you.
That's why he's not employed by Empower.
Yapping 78 times. 78. 1978. How the Red Sox do in 78? Tony Tersey says, get one more power back. Can't rely on Anthony returning soon. Totally agree. Can you just imagine if you got that trade done and in your lineup you're going to have, when Anthony comes back, you would have Contreras, Abrams, Wood, and Anthony? That's a nice four-headed monster right there. I'll tell you right now.
On it. That would sounds yummy.
Yeah. Can you shout out my cousin Dixon Myers?
Stop.
Schwarber just destroyed a camera, by the way.
Yeah, I saw that. Oh, God.
All right. So it made you happy. Based on recent past practice, you've got to believe they won't be big buyers at the deadline. I don't know. See, that's the problem with this team. They should. But, again, we're relying on a guy that hasn't had a track record of doing so. So
get ready for Danny Jansen, folks. He's coming back.
Yeah, see, that's what we have to worry about.
Danny Specs.
Yep. They're all going to laugh at you. Tony says their pitching is good enough to win the World Series. Their lineup is not. And again, a lot of it is concerning because of the pitching limits that we spoke about earlier. If that happens to be a legitimate thing and they're going to do that regardless of how they're playing, we have some concerns. That's why I think you got to see and hope that Crochet gets back. I just don't know. Zach Nettle for short. I brought this up before too. He's got the home runs, but the average isn't there. You guys in on Zach Nettle?
I'm in on Zach Nettle, but if Francisco Lindor's in the conversation, obviously I'd pick Lindor over him. I'm also just a sucker for switch hitters. But Neto's his defense is okay. It's definitely better than C.J. Abrams. But he kind of fits the profile for, at least on the hitting side, for what Craig Breslow likes. It's another right-handed bat, pull side power, gets the ball in the air. And also, playing 81 games in a very hitter-friendly park and somewhere where I think the vibes are a little bit better than Anaheim. For a player that's never even had a thought of making it to the playoffs in his career, I think you get a little bit of a boost there, a little bit of an energy, jolt. But if it were to happen, and I think the time for it to happen, honestly, was probably over the off season, but I'd welcome Zach Neto in here with open arms.
Jules says, if we want someone, so will 6 other clubs. And of course, that's the biggest problem, so you are going to have to overpay. But, if you can find a way to make it happen, look, I'm sure a lot of clubs want to click Chris Sale too at the time, So, I mean, it's possible, but it is gonna hurt. Taylor Rogers definitely could use another vet. Any thoughts on Taylor Rogers?
I think we're all set on left-handed relief pitchers right now.
I agree. Rory says, go Diamondbacks. Rooting from Alaska. Welcome in. Thanks for being part of the show. Jules, again, they play golf at spring training, not baseball. April is a spring training, and he's also got the 96 All-Star game on. So that's pretty interesting. Red Sox could win a wild card series. Well, they didn't have enough. I mean, Brian Bayo really hurt them, and, Whitlock can't go more than 2 innings.
Jaron Duran gave up on the team.
Yeah, so All-Star breaks were always 3 days. Games on Thursday, back to the 60s, starting on Friday is a Digibot recent thing. I don't mind the extra day. Jules says, Thayer, Red Sox were my pick for Fear 100%. You guys were thinking alike on that. Betty says she's late. Glad to have you still here. Take your Sox glasses off and be objective. I don't know who he's talking to. Maybe all of us. I don't know. Betty loves our piece of take. She says Breslow messed up getting a good player. This is the problem with him at the trade deadline. And I think if he screws this up one way or the other, I just don't know what they're going to do. I know Tony Maserati's like, what, at this point, don't get rid of him, because what are you going to do? Bring in another 30-year-old, nerd, and they got to start all over again. So I do get his.
Said that as I put my glasses on. I take great offense to that.
There you go. Trades posed to benefit both teams. Exactly, Betty. I mean, what's wrong with that? That's not a problem. Monkey Mike says Bobby Witt off the table. Royals not sending him. Otto Lopez and Tatis will be great fits. San Diego on outside looking in and want to shed salary. I don't know if I want Tatis anymore. I mean, do you guys have reservations with him, or you think he could turn it around?
I think he can turn it around. It depends what I'm going to give up for him. I'm not giving up the same stuff I would for Woods, but if you can give away Duran and something else and bring him in here, then yes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Betty says use those prospects and rookies. Why not Soto? Would you guys want Juan Soto if he was available?
Absolutely not. No.
Really?
He's a bum. No.
You could play left field at Fenway Park. I know he doesn't like to play defense.
Dude doesn't run. He's a load.
He stole a lot of bases last year, Nick.
Oh, I just feel like Mr. Moneybags wants to play when he wants to play. I don't like that attitude. He's got an entitlement beyond belief. I don't like it. He dogs it out sometimes. That pisses me off.
Who's leading the National League in stolen bases this season?
Jaron Duran.
I will get that for you right now. Let's see. Team player. All teams stolen bases. It would be. Oh shoot! Why am I on the Red Sox still? Give me 1 second.
Wilson Contreras has 1 home run right now, folks. He's got 12 swings left. He's got to beat Kyle Schwarber. How about that?
He's got 4 with 8.
On the
I'm that behind.
5 with 7.
Oh, I'm that behind.
Mason Nunez, maybe.
What do we need? We need 10. Nasim Nunez. He's 34 stolen bases with 4 caught stealing.
Yeah.
Off the pole, 6. You might get there.
Let's see.
There.
How about Bobby Witt Jr. package?
I need you to be quiet.
Oh, sorry. I apologize.
How would Bobby Witt Jr. package is not so expensive because you take on all the money? Yeah, if they took on some, more of the money, I think they would. But
you'd have to take on 100%. But you're paying such a premium package.
Yeah, you're going to have to give up 2 impact players, 1 pitcher, minimum, I think, for him. Witherspoon won't be oil can. I didn't mind oil can Boyd. I thought he was all right. Betty says, try orange soda, no Kool-Aid. It's probably got the same amount of sugar content anyway. 78 was Bucky Dent. Oh,
That was 86.
Yeah. I try to forget 80s. I try to forget 78 there, Jules. That was the reason. Connecticut tuned in. Go Red Sox. Welcome aboard. Good eats. Welcome aboard. We're all Connecticut guys here, except for Nick.
I was.
Yeah, you were for a while at school. Betty says go with Soto. She also says no on Tatis. I'm not. I would not. I would not do Tatis. Would Otto Lopez be a good fit on the Red Sox? Anybody's thoughts?
He's interesting. I don't know. Like he's it's a contact first type of guy, which is fine.
Yeah.
Just, when you need a team that's struggling for thump, I'd rather get the guy with thump. But he's a good player without a doubt.
Mike says he's up here from upstate New York. What part? Were you in like Auburn or Seneca Falls area, Syracuse? Let us know. In any event, a couple of housekeeping things. We're going to wrap it up today, but we'll be back probably Thursday night. We'll have a special episode where we'll do a first half report card. So we'll go pretty much player by player that at least was on the team for more than a cup of coffee, and kind of like dissect quickly because there'll be a lot to do. But we'll dissect quickly, where they stand, and we'll all give them ratings and give them, give our report card out. Syracuse. Okay, Mike. Yeah. I was up there for quite some time for school. But in any event, that's what's on the agenda for Thursday. So we'll do that. And definitely go ahead.
Rush back.
Yeah, Wilson Contreras almost just got hit by a pitch in the home run.
Did he really? But did he charge the mound? That would be awesome.
No.
Could you imagine?
Oh, I just saw it. Okay. I'm behind.
Maybe he could get suspended from the rest of the in
on,
any event,
more.
that's what's on tap for Thursday.
Come
So
on.
please go ahead and go to our website at RedSoxDigest.com. Be on Thursday night and give your grades too. See if you agree with our grades and give your grades, and we'll obviously talk about that in the comments section. That's going to wrap it up for tonight. I want to thank Nick, John, and Thayer for being on with me. You can definitely go to RedSoxDigest.com, where we have articles every day, rants, and no spin articles from the game.
Wait, we have breaking news.
Go ahead.
Wilson Contreras just got thrown out of the home run derby.
Did he really?
Ladies and gentlemen, we have breaking news!
Yeah, I'm coming at you from Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. Just want to let you know that Wilson Contreras just threw himself out of the ballpark. He's done in the home run derby.
Yeah,
another suspension incoming. Watch out.
In case anybody doesn't know, he's the first player to play in a All-Star game that's been suspended in current suspension. So leave it to the Red Sox to come up with something unique. But that'll do it for tonight. We'll see you Thursday night. Have a good night, everybody. Until next.